All right, great to see you guys. Yeah, I've got Telemachus's quote on there for the week. Lies can start wars, but truth can stop entire armies. Interesting. Yes, great to see you all. Charles Atora, Tolemykus, Harold Bosma, Brian R. Smith. Hope you're doing well. I don't know about you, Brian R. Smith. I'm assuming you're probably getting weather similar to us in Ottawa, which is just mind-bogglingly incredible. I know what I'll be doing this afternoon once I put on some sunscreen, which I did not do yesterday. Maybe spending the afternoon reading and writing on the front porch. Hopefully you guys are all doing well. Please let me know. I'm going to pop on the narrative right away. Actually, I'm going to show Charles Atora's thingamabob very quick here. In my most recent game haul, I had 2 World War I games. Don't know when I'll ever get to them, or any other of the several other dozen games that I haven't touched yet. Brian R. Smith, yeah, awesome. Yes, exactly. You've got the exact same weather as we do. And Meandering Mike, great to see you. Hope you're doing well. So here we go. I'm going to, like I said, I'm going to go and share the screen here. And I'm starting to clue in a little bit better now about, hopefully, anyways, of trying to pop these in. Yeah, that's okay. Good. So welcome, everyone. Please let me know what you've been up to this week. Here's the fact checker. I also decided to call it now an interesting tidbits, because there's things that I find out throughout the week and I'm like, where the hell am I going to add these? I want to let everybody know about them. And I was like, what in the world, how am I going to do this? So yes, remember last week, Brian R. Smith, you asked, do we know where that airship crashed and whatnot? And like I said, I was assuming it was somewhere along the Macedonian front, just due to the fact that there were Serbians and French troops working together. And of course, the British were the ones that fired from their ship. Anyways, I ended up finding out it's the wreckage of Zeppelin LZ85. It was brought down in the marshes near Salonika on the 5th of May, 1916. Like I said, I'm going to go through the little quick tidbits. So one of the talks I think I was mentioning to you that I'd watched last week, that right after, more or less right after the live stream, was American Women in World War I by James Hockenberry, I do believe. I actually picked up one of his books. He's the guy that does the intrigue espionage books. David Imperato, great to see you. My gosh, it's been a while since I've talked to you. I hope you're doing well. Anyways, so here's a few things. For example, basket case. I mean, we know what the term is nowadays, but that was supposedly an actual medical term they were using back in the day. And it essentially, if you were a basket case, you were a quadruple amputee. Like, oh my God. So that's where that thing came from. Kotex actually was originally a super absorbent bandage that was used. And I guess the nurses over there were like, wait a minute, we could use this for something else. The Germans considered the Scottish Highlanders, they used to call them that, the ones that went around in kilts, devils in dresses, which I thought was neat. Charles Atora, you had mentioned earlier, I wasn't sure if it was in the headlines or whatever last week. Anyways, about segregation issues. Gamers with Coffee, great to see you. I hope you're doing well. The segregation issues, and I mentioned you, I wasn't sure if it was, yeah, that's right. You were mentioning if it was French Canadian and English Canadians were separated or something. And it actually wasn't about that or about race or any of those things. It's the Canadian soldiers that are recuperating in hospitals in England were getting a bit miffed that they were actually getting segregated from the British troops. They're like, hey, man, we're having like good friendships and camaraderie and whatnot. Can you stop this? Eleanor Egan is one of the authors that James Hockenberry mentioned, and I hope I'm saying his name right. Anyway, she wrote extensively on the Armenians, if you want to go and look that up. Dr. Monroe's Flying Ambulance Corps as well. Oh my gosh, that's so neat. Gamers with Coffee, Ashley's here as well. Hope you're doing well. Anyway, so that's that. I wanted to look that up as well. So please let me know what you guys have been up to. As you know, Charles Atora and others that shoots through the game, my copy of the game arrived this week. And that's the other thing, Charles Atora, I was mentioning. You were saying, wait a minute, I'm still playing the game. I think I got one of your comments actually I misconstrued it or something. I think you had said something like, I can't see the Germans winning or doing something like that. So I just assumed you were calling it a day for the game. And there's the game you were mentioning. Meandering Mike says, oh, I'm going to hold on here. I'm going to pop this thing here. They didn't use the term basket case in the movie, but Johnny Got His Gun is a creepy movie about keeping alive a basket case that was supposedly brain dead, but wasn't. Yes. And who was it? Was it Tolemykus as well? I think also mentioned that that movie a few months ago. And I remember someone did a video of that, used that as a music video way back when. Oh, good morning, Merrick Goebel. Hope you're doing well. Great to see you. And this is I was looking at one of your comments there, Charles, and you were saying something about, oh, I'm going to have to go and take a look at the Hollandspiele game there about the Pacific in World War I. I keep forgetting about the Empire at Sunrise thing. So I was like, off I went to go take a look. I'm glad you mentioned it because it's prohibitive for me to buy it, even though I think they're still getting their components from. Kilroy was here. Metallica, thank you. That's it. That's the. Thank you, Kilroy is here. Great to see you. And William Aarons, awesome to see you again. And Guns N' Roses Civil War video, I think, well, Brian R. Smith, maybe they both used it. Anyways, I forgot that Hollandspiele, I don't know about their entire catalog, but I can purchase Empire at Sunrise as a print and play on Wargame Vault. And I was like, okay, that would make that a heck of a lot better. I love the components from Blue Panther. I love those chunky counters. Freaking awesome. As you well know, that I'm also going to be playing the first Battle of the Masurian Lakes, World Undone, East Prussia. Like I said, it's comfort food for me. Super easy game. A low amount of counters. 9 turns. The neat thing is, later on, I don't know if we're going to get to it, but we've got a ton of stuff to talk about today. We're going to get into the things here. So what do you think would have happened if all of the neutrals from 1915 onwards had remained neutral? That was a question I wanted to throw out. And it's been an interesting week for me with neutrals. It's that book, that flipping book here, the On a Knife Edge from Holger Afflerbach. Basically, I've been spending most of my week just with my little journal, reading and writing. I just keep taking notes every 5 seconds reading this book. It's just fantastic. Right now, I'm getting knee deep into a lot of the peace proposals and whatnot, and the difficulties and how elusive it was throughout the whole war. And then again here with the neutrals. Remember, I was talking to you as well, Charles Atora, about we were talking about Italy and Greece and how effective they were with the Great War and so on and so forth. And I'm amazed, I just finished reading I'm amazed at how much effort Germany did try to put into, well, obviously they certainly would have loved it if Italy had joined the Central Powers proper. But at that bare minimum, they were really trying to make sure that Italy stayed neutral at that bit. Austria and Hungary, and I didn't realize, and Italy, Germany were benefiting from Italy being neutral because they were able to get a lot of goods through Italy and whatnot. And I just found this out this morning. I had no clue that the British naval blockade was considered illegal by international law. I was like, what? I had no idea about that. So that was pretty fascinating to do. I'm going to say this about the thing. I was lumping all the neutrals together. And I hope maybe we'll get to one of the scans that I did from the book, because I was starting to lump them together. Because I was like, you know what? The harshest criticism or the most scathing criticism I think you should give is towards the neutrals that end up joining the war later. They damn well know what the heck's going on. The other countries, you could say at the very beginning, didn't really know what they were getting themselves in for. But countries like Romania damn well knew what they were getting themselves in for. So, those politicians and whatnot that decided to join the war, it's like, well, you're sacrificing your own people for that type of thing. Italy, now I'm starting to clue in, is a little bit more complicated than what I thought it was. I thought for sure it was just the straight greed thing, but not really. But I still got a long way to go. Remember last week, Brian R. Smith says, my mistake, it was Metallica's 1. Kilroy was correct. Thank you, sir. Charles Torres says, imagine if Mexico had joined the Germans. I know. Oh my gosh, that would have been fascinating. Last week, as we know, was number 29, the Battle of Konary. We have a bingo. Someone got a bingo this week. It was Meandering Mike. So you're going to get an extra 6 points. I'll see if I can flash your thing up here. Hold on here. Yeah, so you got it via the truce thing. So I was like, okay, how am I going to do this? I've never done a bingo thing or whatever here. So I'm going to stop this. I'm going to present another screen. And then, yeah, I have to, unfortunately, didn't put it in the, but if I leave it in there, oh, I shouldn't have removed it, should I? Oh, it's a little late now. Oh, brother. Tolemykus says, even the U.S., oh, here we go. Even the U.S. looked the other way, and we're not always really neutral. Oh, my God. Tolemykus, that is so cool that you mentioned that, because the chapter, I'll read it off very quickly. Okay, 10 minutes, man. And we've got a ton of material to cover from contributions. So I've got to remind myself to shut up and stay focused. So the latest chapter I'm reading right now, and so it's so cool that you say this, Tolemykus. So he always has these little quotes at the very beginning of the chapter. And this one is, you are not neutral. You are taking sides. U.S. Secretary of State William Jennings Bryan to Wilson's cabinet on the 1st of June, 1915. So that's so cool that you put that in. And I'm going to pop in Eric Goebel's thing. I think GRD has a Mexico map in the Over There game. Interesting. I don't know anything about that. So if you could tell us more, let us know. So there's Meandering Mike's bingo. He got it via the truce thing. So you get 6 points. And I'm going to stop the screen, and then I'm going to present the other doohickey. And then we'll go back to the narrative. Is that my narrative? Yes, it is. All right. There we are. So, yep, you're up to 48 points. I think, Brian R. Smith, you got a few people got one. I think you also had number 47, which is, well, you guys don't know yet. I have to bring Cherami and let you know what the battle is. It's number 97, 1917, the Battle of Rafa, which I'll put in the, I've got it in the banners here. Hold on here. Oh my God, I almost revealed the bloody answer for the who or what am I, and that would have sucked. So all I know so far about the Battle of Rafa, actually we'll go very quickly to the link, the wiki links, because there's a nice map I'd love to show later. Hold on here. As per usual, I've got to, did I leave it in the Battle of Rafa? Yeah, no, I've actually, you know what, we're going to quickly, Brian R. Smith, go to the, I'm going to get rid of the banners because you don't have to keep seeing that. And then we're going to go very quickly off to the whatevers. Yeah, I was saying to Zoe Dufour earlier in this week, I was like, there's 0% chance we're going to be able to talk about everything I want to talk about, especially due to the fact I tend to go on and on and on. Don't stay on script. So it's this. So here you are, Brian R. Smith. This is, I'm going to get rid of me. Hold on here. Boink. And then I'm going to bump it up. There we go. Oops, that's a bit too much. So there's Zeppelin LZ85. That's from the thing we saw last week. That video footage. Oh my gosh! I hope Charles Terrace says only 18. Time to toss silly answers if I can think of any. Yes, and we'll talk about what I'm going to do with Meandering Mike and the bingo. I think I don't know what to do. Maybe give him a new bingo card or whatever. But I'm going to continue on, because I'm like, I can't reset all these battles. But anyways, I got it here. I just thought it was neat that we could actually find out about it and what happened. And then I guess at some point we're going to find out where but it had quite a bit of action, didn't it? Jeepers jumping, as far as I can see here. So I'm going to stop the screen and we'll go back to the, what did I say I wanted to show you? Let me see. I got it back to the narrative and then I'll know. Oh yeah, it was the Battle of Rafa. Hold on here. I got to go to the links. So all I know, it was the final, I guess, the final nail in the coffin for the Turks and whatnot in the Sinai. That finally, this was after the Battle of Ramadi or whatever. We had seen that a little bit earlier, and I guess now that he actually even bring in the engineer that was working on the Panama Canal to come in and show them how to set up things like the water system and whatnot to get it over. I thought that was pretty cool. So hold on here. I'm going to gotta pop it in the thingamajig. Hold on here. Yeah, and then we're going to start getting straight into the contributions so I don't miss any, because Harold Bosma sent in a huge report. William Aarons, we didn't even look at your pictures from last week, so we still have to do that. And there's still a chunk of your, there's still a chunk of the last week's ATA, for goodness sakes. We did silly answers are the best answers. You're darn right. How do you think Meandering Mike is in the lead? For goodness sakes, most of the time. So hold on here. I got to, I keep forgetting to grab the wrong one. There we go. So there's the Battle of Rafa, also known as the Action of Rafa. Anyways, there you go. It's this neat map at the bottom here. I was like, oh boy, I really want to go take a look at that at some point, because that's a sweetheart of a map. Anyways, yeah. So yeah, there's Rafa, and I think they just took Ella. Well, we were reading about this for goodness sakes in the war summary, and during the daily headlines and whatnot. Okay, so I'm going to stop this because we got to start trucking. That's for sure. So I'm going to put in the first. Well, we're going to start off with the clues for who or what am I in World War I. I don't think I have this person, so it's going to be who or what am I in World War I. I don't think I checked to see. I don't think I have this person in there. So yeah, I'm starting off fairly specific, I guess, in a way. Usually, like I said, I go off in like very large or whatever, but. So there we go. I was a proud Prussian. Who am I? So that should help you guys out. And then I'm going to go back to presenting the screen very quickly, and we can take a look and see what's going on here. There we go. And I can pop myself a little bit. All right. And we're going to William Aarons' pictures. We're going to see Harold Bosma and Spiel Essen. Gamers with Coffee did a trench knife playthrough. It's awesome. I was really impressed. Not as well as it. There seems like a lot of game in that tin. I was like, holy smokes! They're talking about suppressed fire and so on and so forth. It started to remind me a little bit of soldiers and whatnot. It seemed like there was a lot of decision points to be made. I was like, okay, Charles Latorre, you're still banging out Schutztruppe for sure. Harold Bosma says Kaiser Wilhelm. You're going to get a point, but you're incorrect, sir. Hold on here. I got to. Where are you? Where the hell are you? There you are. Yes, I certainly want to go to the intense battle footage from World War I. We'll take a look at that. It's only a minute long. And then I think we'll get into the contributions. And if we have any time left over, then we'll do that. Well, you never know, Harold Bosma. You never know. Someday, I mean, some people have got it on the first crack. I can remember Corvinus Wargaming way back when got it on the first one. I was like, what? So you never, like, I just never know. And then there's other days I'm like, okay, this is going to be super easy and no one gets them. So there's your second clue. The Kaiser presented me with the Pour le Mérite for my exploits at the Battle of Liège. Who am I? Oh my gosh! And I'm getting a lot of them. Tolemykus says, Albert, you're getting a point, but you are incorrect. And Harold Bosma says, Von Mackinson. Oh, I love it, but you are incorrect. Yep, that is like I've said before. If I was going to have a dream guy, I would certainly want him on my team. For goodness sakes, if you had to start picking generals for, hold on here. Oh, I love that Kilroy was here, but just wait till you see the next clue. But you are also incorrect with Eric von Falkenhayn. Charles Latorre is going to get a funny face point. Hold on here. I got to finish off some people. Harold Bosma gets another one. And Tolemykus. Okay. Just wanted to make sure. Yeah, you're going to see why I find it interesting. Meandering Mike says, Blue Max Man Group. Oh, cool. You. Well done, sir. But you are incorrect. Oh, brother. So hold on here. There we go. No, it's the next clue after this one. Kilroy was here that you're going to go, okay. I believe that war was the foundation of society. Boom! Harold Bosma. Well done, my friend. You got it. That's it. It's Eric Ludendorff. I'm pretty darn sure I haven't used that person yet. And Brian R. Smith says General Otto von Emich. I'm going to have to look up that person because I don't have a clue who that person is. So please let me, hold on here. I got to write that down because I have no idea who that person is. So I'm writing him down. Yes, Harold Bosma. Well done. And I'll give you the rest of the clues. Ludendorff cough drops. Oh my God. Yeah, he is one. Oh, wow. We're going to see. He is one just sour looking puss. That is for sure. I'm going to show you the rest of the whatevers. And this is why I said I found it interesting that you said Falkenhayn Kilroy was here, because he's in one of the clues here. Falkenhayn thought I was not right in the head. Actually, a lot of people thought Ludendorff was not right in the head, but I also knew how to press his buttons. And then the other ones were, I was certainly the brains in the dynamic duo that I was part of. Remember, he was part with Hindenburg. And this is the neat thing I've been finding out. One of the reasons why they brought Hindenburg like out of the mothball closet or whatever, out of retirement, was not because they had issues with Prittwitz or whatnot, because they brought in Ludendorff to help out Prittwitz at the very beginning. It was the fact that they knew that Prittwitz and Ludendorff probably wouldn't get along together. They were just both very difficult personalities. So they ended up replacing Prittwitz with Hindenburg, someone they knew that was a pretty easygoing person to get along. So I thought that was pretty neat. And then the last one was, as the war progressed, I took over more control of all German affairs. Yeah, like everything. It was just nuts. So, and let me see if I can show you a quick picture here of Ludendorff. I know a lot of people have seen him. Yeah, he ended up finding out that he ends up becoming pro-Nazi, but then ends up also running against Hitler later on in the, I guess, well, way before World War II and all that stuff. Hold on, do I have him? I thought, oh no, I'm in the wrong folder. That's why. Where are you, Ludendorff? I thought, yeah, there we are. And then I'm missing all kinds of things, am I? Oh, thank you, Brian R. Smith. He was part of Bülow's Second Army and commanded 6 brigades that opened the way through to Liège. Oh, cool, neat. Yeah, I ended up finding out just earlier this week that, well, I'm going to show him here. No, I want to present this one. Yeah, I know we're going off into that video and then off to contributions. So there's Erich Ludendorff. Yeah, I ended up finding out this week that I don't know what was the 5th Battalion or something like this, that he was part of the commander died or whatever, and Ludendorff took it upon himself, took control and ended up, I guess, doing a night attack or whatever on Liège or some part of it anyways. And the guys thought, I guess, there was way more Germans than there were, and surrendered. And so that was that. So I'm going to stop the screen. Then we're going to go off to show you this fantastic, intense battle footage. I don't think I'm doing copyright infringement thingamajigs, because you'll see what I mean. And my God, it's not like I've said before, it's not like I'm doing this for money or something, for God's sakes, or notoriety. The only thing I will say, though, that I am editing out is in the sense that I did take off his I did take off the music. I found there's some classical music associated with this, and I thought that there's no need for that. I'm getting rid of me. And then this is only about 1.5 minutes, and as you can see here, it says rare, or you may not be able to say that. It says rare combat footage from World War I shows 2 armies fighting in hand-to-hand combat. Well, you're going to see people like 1 second they're alive, next minute they're dead. It's just like holy moly. So it's only 1.5 minutes long, and then we're going to go off to the contributions. So there you go. Hopefully you guys can see that fairly well. But Jesus, Murphy. Tolemykus says, fair use media representation. You are fine with copyright as far as most laws. YouTube is another issue. Thanks. Yeah, and the website, I'll show you where I got it from. Oh, the website. So it's not like I'm like whatever. So like once this video, I'll minimize the screen so you can see the website where it comes from. Yet again, everything's in the sources and links as much as I can. I actually had to reduce some of the sources and links, but look at this. It was neat to watch this scene, like at the beginning, like, oh yeah, oh, I forgot. You're going to see some bits here. Look at the airplanes going by. That just freaked me right out. when I saw it this first time. You'll see a guy, someone on the left. Oh, here comes the tank. So I'm assuming this is French. These are the French troops going across. And you'll see this guy on the left here. They have a bitch of a time, it seems, with the machine gun. I think it jams. This one here, I think they have a bitch of a time getting it going. And I guess it, but the thing is, it looks like a water-cooled machine gun. It doesn't look like one of the French machine guns. I can't remember the name of it, but I'd have to look at the way the belt is, because I know the Hotchkiss French machine gun there. It's got the, remember, it's not like, oh, there you go. I'm going to show you so you guys got to see that. And there it is, the intense battle footage. So I'm glad you guys got to see that. And I'm going to just stop that there for now. And then I'll stop the screen. And then we're going to go to the contributions. And well, tell you what, we are going to go to the contributions. I'm just going to go zippity dip quick to show you the narrative of the stuff that I would have enjoyed talking to you about, but we're not going to be able to because we're 26 minutes in. The trials of the two Buick tractors. It's pretty neat to watch. Probably in the USA, but in 1916. The thing that got me a bit of a head scratcher is I'm not sure, one of the people on the tank, maybe we'll see it next week, on one of these tractors, kind of looks like a British officer to me. And I'm like, what the hell are you doing there? I thought the United States was neutral, and this is pretty like this seems to be breaking everything around. We're not going to get to it. The Freikorps Bolsheviks invade Germany in 1920. It looks really, really nice, though. I can tell you that much. Paul Hederer update, I'll give you very quickly. He did post on BGG this week mentioning the fact that there is going to be a monster delay to the game. They're having playtester issues. Not looking good as far as I'm concerned. The Western Front Association, they released their top 10 Great War films. I can show that super duper ultra quick. So I think I have it listed here. Hold on. Just got to get into it. We're doing all right. Maybe not. Oh, brother, I do this all the time. Okay, that's not too bad. And then I'm going to present but no, I want to make sure I get to your stuff. So I'm going to really, really try to shut up or focus. So there you go, the top 10 films. Hopefully you guys can see that. I'll make it a little bit bigger. Hold on here. Font. Let's go to 24. There. So they had Aces High. I haven't seen most of these. That's for sure. I don't know how many of you guys have seen of these. So Aces High, I think I've seen that one. I think that's with Christopher Plummer. 9th place, Warhorse. 8th place, All Quiet on the Western Front, the 2022 version. I haven't seen that one. Gallipoli, oh my God, seeing that ages ago. Journey's End, I've not seen that. 1917, I did not enjoy that film. I think you were with me as well, William Aarons. You did not enjoy that film. Paths to Glory, holy F, what a movie. If you have not seen that movie, Jeepers Jumping. Lawrence of Arabia, I still have not watched that, Charles Satora, but I have got it. All Quiet on the Western Front, 1931. I have not watched that one. I've only watched the 1970s one there with, oh, darn it, Tolemykus. You remember the guy's name. Richard, the guy from the Waltons there, darn it. And They Shall Not Grow Old. I still have not seen that, for goodness sakes. That's the Peter Jackson stuff, I do believe. Now, I'm going to, oh yeah, I said we're just going to very quickly go through the narrative, and then we're certainly going to go up. Richard Thomas, thank you, David Imperato. So I'm going to actually going to, back to the narrative, boink, and I'm going to put your thing there. Thank you. I don't know what it is about me I constantly forget his name. I really enjoyed that movie. That was really darn good. Join the World. Oh, fantastic! Wicked, Meandering Mike. Oh, it's a really, 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 they're so affordable and just a very small group. They're really, really good. Oh, fantastic. Great to hear. Lots of stuff. The Western Front Association, when we did that one. Artillery distances of a French 75, and I'm using my route from my house to work to get some perspective. I don't know about you guys, but when I hear about these distances and so on and so forth, I don't understand what they mean, really. And I was like, okay, I've got to put this into perspective. So I took a look. Well, if we've got time, we'll look at it later. So my jaw dropped when I started looking at the effective firing range for shrapnel. I didn't know this. That the name shrapnel comes from the guy who actually came up with that type of shell. His last name's Shrapnel, for goodness sakes. Eric Goebel's got to go, got to run, chores, wait for no man. Have a great weekend to you and a great week, man. Great to see you. Anyway, so if we get to this point, at one point, it just blew me away when I started looking at what a French 75 gun could do. And I was like, oh my God, like it's hard to believe. On the Knife Edge by Holger Offenbach, like I said, I've got a bazillion things I could show you in the book scans that doubt we're going to get to it. There's a movie out there about the Women's Battalion of Death. It's called The Battalion. It's a Russian film, most likely. I found it ironic when you go down, when I took a look at the, well, I mean, obviously they're going to pick someone fairly attractive, but the person that they picked to represent the battalion commander, darn it, I can't remember her name. Yashka was her nickname, though, I do believe. Yashka. If you saw what she looked like in real life versus the movie version, you'd be like, ooh, big difference. David Amparado says, yes, Ernest Borgnine was in the Richard Thomas version too. And coincidentally is the avatar picture that Paul Hederer uses in BGG, which I think is totally cool. The Tin Lizzie hospital wagon, we won't get to it, but I found a lot more information about it. So the reason why it's called a Tin Lizzie, it's a Model T hospital wagon. The Not So Quiet on the Western Front podcast on Spotify. I wanted to go through the entire library just to show you the sheer volume of podcasts that they have. And remember, those two are super duper good historians, not to mention they're friends. So they've got this wicked rapport going on with the podcast. It's really, really good. They know their stuff. Nursing sister Margaret Lowe, she was one of a Canadian nurse that was actually killed at the front. And there's a big memorial, whatnot, from her. We're not going to be able to get to there. Kilroy was here. Great show. Keep it up. Need to drop off the kids at the pool. Literally, not figuratively. All right. Great to see you. And I hope you have a great week as well. The Heidelberg Historic Literature site, it's a German database. I found tons of stuff. They even have a bunch of trench newspapers, the field newspapers that you can get there. Fascinating stuff. And you lucky little devils like Harold Bosma and William Ahrens that can read German straight up. You're on the Plateau by Emilio Lusso. Didn't know that there was an actual book. This is from that Italian movie I mentioned that you can watch on YouTube. It's a fantastic movie. I really, really enjoyed that movie. David Imparado says the figurative version would be appropriate for Dan of the Chit Show. Yes. Gosh, I haven't watched any of those in ages. The World War I All Parts Epic History. I put that link in the sources and links on YouTube if you want to watch like an hour version. Guy's a great narrator anyway. He's got an awesome voice. War Game Vault maps that are free and others listed from lowest price to first. I can't believe how many maps you can get free or pay what you want. I was really impressed. My Beloved Poilus by Agnes Warner. She was an American nurse, and yes, an American nurse writing back. And she never expected her letters to be published, but they were publishing them, I think, while she was doing them. I can't remember that term. And there we go. So I'm going to go off to this. Awesome. And I have to blow this up and get rid of me, I think. No, I don't maybe not have to get rid of me, but I do know that I need to zoom to, I think is that it? And maybe I do have to get rid of me. Hold on. So you guys can see this. Yes. So here we go. This is from Harold Bosma about going to Spielessen 2 weeks ago. So thank you very much for this, and it's pretty neat. I know, well, you're going to read here. I'll shush. Hi, Chris. First, a short observation regarding our good friend Mark Ruggiero, Clark Commando 1983. He has not posted anything for 11 days, and it worries me. We know he is very sick, and I do miss his posts and hope it is only temporary. Maybe you have some info. No, Harold Bosma, I haven't talked to Clark Commando 1983 in a while, to be honest with you. Maybe a couple of weeks. Anyways, hereby some positive vibes for Mark. You're darn right. As promised, please find here with the Essen 2024 report. See for yourself if you want to share. Don't want to distract from the World War I show. You never will. I have put all World War I relevant stuff at the end so you can skip the first pages, which we are not going to be doing because other people are going to be really into it, especially the fact that you've got a ton of Napoleonic information here. And I know people like Meandering Mike and Charles Atora are pretty knee deep into Napoleonics. So I was like, and I was surprised, Harold Bosman. I didn't realize how much Napoleonic stuff you have, man. So it was my 17th visit to the fair. I'm very lucky as I live 25-minute drive from Essen. I visited 2 days in Essen on Friday and Saturday. And on Saturday, I was joined by my good friend of 31 years, Glenn, an avid advanced squad leader player. All days were sold out for the first time. More than 200,000 visitors in 4 days visited the fair. Wait till you see the crowd pictures. Holy smokes. As always, it was a fantastic event, but always with some twists. The positive, record number of visitors. It shows board gaming is, despite digitalization, alive and kicking. Yes, I'm a big Simple Minds fan. Sound of Drums, a new war game publisher for the first time present. See pictures below and report. I think a few of you guys have mentioned that publisher as well. The negative, prices for exhibitors were increased again. Simple booth cost 2,000 euros plus service costs around 350 euros. Holy shoot. As a result, many small publishers and shops were not present, and this had a big impact on wargame representation. Yeah, I was surprised when you mentioned that there was no VUCA. I was wondering why at first. Here a list with wargame exhibitors who passed. VUCA simulations, yes, a tragedy. They were not present. They did not mention anything on their homepage. Udo Greb Game Design, along with Fantasy Encounter. Udo Greb is the biggest wargame shop at Spiel. Fantasy Encounter is still present with lots of wargames, with unashamedly high prices. Logic, as they needed to cover their high expenses. Histo Games, Richard Civil, was absent for the first time in the 17 years. Really sad. He is the designer, publisher of Friedrich, Maria, and he republished Bonaparte at Marengo. Independent designers always had their own hall where they could present their prototype games. Not anymore, unfortunately. Just looking to make sure I'm not, whatever. Yeah, this is something I'm like, I would have anxiety attack from hell. Oh my God. The only picture I would say here is not this one, but I mean, look at that. That's just like, oh my goodness gracious me. Here, this one actually kind of reminded me of the knitting and stitching show. That's about the level I can handle. And that's about it. And there's your Sound of Drums, the new Wargamer publisher. And you said you had I think you said you were having a really good time talking with this person. Yes. I had a chat with Uwe Valentin, owner of Sound of Drums and game designer. Meandering Mix is too crowded for me. Yeah, same. Oh my goodness. Great to see you, Eric. There you are. I hope you're having a great, doing well, man. Good to see you. I'm just making sure that I'm looking at everybody here. I had a chat with the owner of Sound of Drums and game designer. I own his fabulous game, Ilau 1807, a great game, and it has the most beautiful components the industry has to offer. UA is very ambitious and has more wargame designs lined up, like Battle Commander, Napoleonic, and Assault, Tactical World War II. He also works together with famous designers like Carl Paradis. UA used to be the owner of Proludo, a famous European publisher. He sold the company to Asmodi, a huge publisher. Even though early retirement, he does not sit still, and he looks like he's very happy man. Awesome. Australian design group. They had World in Flames deluxe version for only 70 euros. No time, no space for this, unfortunately. What a monster looking box there. Rome Total War, the board game. This I found funny. For me anyway, so you're like recreating the famous computer game. I had no idea it was a computer game. I didn't know anything about this. I was like, this is funny. It looks nice though. You guys can see that. Yep. NAC recently released The Other Side of the Hill. I pre-ordered the game, and there's a lot of debate regarding the ethics. The game is like GMT's Mr. President, but you have to take on the role of an OKW general pushing your agenda. And Eric says, do you live play of your game as well, Chris? Very rarely. Once in a blue moon, I do. Once in a blue moon. But I've got a lot of time off right now. I don't go back to work till the 4th of November, which is absolutely wonderful. Meandering Mike says NEC got in trouble for including an Iron Cross as memorabilia. Whoa. Well, they are a Spanish publishers so far. Spanish market, these topics are certainly not obscure. Here are some titles focusing on Spain. I don't know if you can see them, but anyways, I'm not going to bump it up. Oh, this I absolutely love. Hold on here. I'm going to show this, the other Meandering Mike thing here. Iron Cross with particular ribbon colors is assumed to be Nazi-issued metal. Okay. I don't know what it is about me and these black, shaded black type things, just like the Kings and Kaisers map. This is for Battle for Berlin. Caught my eye a mile away. This looks beautiful. Oh my gosh, just a beautiful looking map. What else do we got? Ares Games. They have a lot of war game, I guess you're trying to say, like War the Ring, Quartermaster General titles, and interestingly, they had the best World War I offerings, Wings of War and Quartermaster 1914, and also a great title from Nuts Publishing, Italia 1917-19, A Farewell to Arms. Didn't know about this, looks really nice. A stunning game on a great topic. Normally a no-brainer, but since I pre-ordered Caporetto, which is absolutely gorgeous, from Europa Simulazione, also a stunning game, I decided to pass on this game for now. And yeah, I'm not a huge fan of the 3D-ish looking things, but that is a fine looking map. I'll give you that. What else did you say? There's the Crisis 1914 game, which does look intriguing. And the Wings of Glory, I think I wouldn't buy the game, but I certainly would love to buy the toys. Oh my gosh, look at them all. So all in all, a great event, but I really missed the small publishers. Yeah, I can imagine. My purchases, and you guys would know about these. I don't. It seems to me like you did snag a few Napoleonic things here. Tanto Monta, La Bataille de Mont Saint-Jean Deluxe, Battles in the East, SPI. Wings of Glory is fun. Yes, I remember Gamers of Coffee, you were mentioning that yes, toys. Darn right, Tolemykus. Battles in the East, SPI. What is that, Harold Bosma? Like what time period? I'd like to know. Mounted map, Path of Glory. Remember you mentioning that last week that you had picked out your Path of Glory game, and then the expansions for Stalingrad 42. A fantastic event as always, and still suffering from post-event depression. We have to wait for another year. Fantastic. I'm going to go to the week, then we're going to go to the ATA, because like I said, I tried to break it up a little bit with the those are aerial action figures. Oh, very well. It is World War II, 1944, Poland front. Thanks, man. I had no clue. Because when I went to go look it up on BGG, it was like, and there it is. Brian R. Smith says, it's my impression that NEC issue is related to their marketing strategy. The game itself has been seen for some time during its playtest with no comment. Interesting. Thank you for that. Yeah, like I'll try to break it up. I like to break up since the week that was is a little too close to the after hours. I thought I would do that, and then we're going to go to your ATA. October 3rd, 13th, a big Allied raid, 40 airplanes on the Mauser factory at Oberndorf, and the return of prisoners. Enemy is checked in Predil and Buzeu passes in southern Transylvania. British forces pushing forward on the Struma front. Successful British raids on the Doron front. Fighting in the Carso continues. Norway prohibits belligerent submarines from using her territorial waters. October 14th, west of Bellois-en-Santerre, a brilliant French attack on a line 1¼ miles and capture German first line as well as Guerremont northeast of Ablancourt. French bombardment of Sailly-Salicelle along the Bapaume-Péronne road commences. Enemy advance through the Tortsburg Pass and reach Rukar 6 miles within Romania. The frontier ridge at Padril won by enemy, and the town was burnt to the ground. Romanians have now withdrawn from Transylvania, except in the northeast corner. General indecisive attack by the Allies on main Bulgarian line on the Macedonian front. End of the offensive in the Carso. Italians consolidate all positions with the line advanced 2 miles and also claim 8,000 prisoners. Russian submarine captures Rodosto, a Turkish armed transport in the Black Sea. Yeah, they make a big fuss about it in the war summary later. October 15th, anti-Entente demonstrations in Athens. British raid Magara in the South Sinai. Ceres is shelled by the British. Stubborn fighting on the Cherna front. On Mount Vesubio, Italians continue their advance. Intense fighting at Rukar. Artillery activity on the Danube. British make progress in the Schwaben redoubt and Thiepval neighborhood. October 16th. French gain footing in Saï, 2 miles east of Morval. Fighting continues at Rukar. Romanians give ground in the Buzău Pass. Enemy's offensive at Dornavatra, which is the point of junction between Romanian and Russian armies in Moldavia and Jablanista, are repulsed. In Athens, Allies land reinforcements to maintain order and take possession of 3 Greek warships that were not previously taken. Admiral Dufournet hands fresh note to the Greek government. And I'm not sure, but I'm pretty darn sure when the French and the British show up in Athens, they get a rude awakening. The Royalists have already taken up positions, and from what I know, there's a bit of a scuffle that goes on, or maybe a bit more of a scuffle. October 17th, British raid and take Dokla Oasis, 175 miles southwest of Azuit. Fighting in the Dobroli region north of, that word again. Like I said, I can say it in my head, but as soon as it goes towards my mouth, forget it. Italians captured the Tooth of Vesubio. I want to find out about that, man. Romanians maintain positions at Rukar, but retreat in the Gheamis Pass, Moldavia. Enemy has penetrated 8 miles into Romania and reached Agos. North of Korenica, 24 miles southwest of Lutsk, obstinate fighting where the Germans claim trenches and 1,900 prisoners. French gain the new group of houses in Sailly-Salicel. And October 18th, the British make progress north of Guiducourt. French drive the enemy out of Sailly. South of the Somme, French carry the whole front between La Maisonnette Chateau and Biache, facing Peronne. Romanian successful attack enemy in Aluta in southern Transylvania. Austrians do not retake the offensive in this region until the 28th. Serbians take village of Brod and completely rout the enemy. Strong enemy attacks in the Doron region repulsed by the British. Alunia, I don't know what in the world this is, a Cunarder, must be some type of ship or boat, is sunk. The München, a small German cruiser, torpedoed by British submarine. October 19th, the Conference of Allies at Boulogne, where at Venizelos' national provisional government in Crete receives recognition. Last enemy post north of the Central Railway cleared in German East Africa. General Van de Winter in touch with General Northey. So they're, the British and I wonder, he's with the Rhodesians, I think, General Northey. Enemy begins offensive in Naringa and the Rahuji River districts. British raid and take Baharia Oasis, 180 miles southwest of Cairo. Thank you, Meandering Mike, because I have was a shipping line name. Awesome, because I was like, am I misreading this or what in the world is going on? Thanks, man. Further Serbian successes north of Brod. Sharp fighting at the Tooth of Vesubio. However, the Austrian counterattacks are repulsed. What a name. Enemy check in the Transylvanian passes and heavy bombardment in Dobruja. Now we're going to go off to the ATA. And like I said, William Aarons is, some of this is last week's, say Cunard 10 times fast in a row, Tolemykus says. Oh gosh, I can't say anything. I'll bite my tongue, but I'd like to say some things, but I can't. Oh, this is cool. Thanks, Meandering Mike. And now I'm going to go towards the. So here we go. This is from last week, William Aronson. I hope to God we can get through as much as I think so. We got 11 minutes. Translator's note: I felt badly having fallen behind the date of the live stream. Really? How about two of us then? So here's a short dispatch from this week of the war having to do with actions in Macedonia and other places in the Balkans. And I'm just going to pop on there. I wish that I was more of a world traveler and could visit these conventions throughout both North America and Europe. Me too, William Aronson. So, but not that size of a crowd. My goodness me. So here's a short dispatch from this week of the war having to do with actions in Macedonia and other places in the Balkans. The general staff reporting here is probably that of the Bulgarians, though this is not stated here. The 10th of October, 1916, counterattack on the Cerna, Sofia, 9th of October, 1916, official report of the general staff. Macedonian front, westernly from the railway line, Lurin, Florina, to Bitolia in Monastir. There was the usual artillery fire from both sides. Easternly from this railway, enemy artillery opened up a barrage of fire against our positions from Ranali to somewhere, with some rounds having overshot the Cerna. In any case, a counterattack was made against them. That battle continues. In the valley of the Mogilnitsa River, both sides engaged with artillery rounds and mortars. And I'm going to pop his thing up there, and I'll let you guys take a look while I'm reading. East and west from the Vardar River up to the foothills of the Belasica mountain range, there was only weak artillery activity. Patrol contact was made on the Struma front. On the Aegean Sea, all was calm. The Romanian front. On the Danube, we took an island in the eastern entrance in the Belene Channel west of Zemunica with the support of a flotilla. There we took 2 officers and 150 soldiers as prisoners, along with 6 artillery pieces. By the city of Dobrits and along the Black Sea coast, all is calm. Translator's note: in this report from the middle of October, it seems that the German government and press was just as determined to see that their air attacks done mainly by Zeppelins over England were as potentially devastating to the morale of the English as was the continued attacks on its shipping by the U-boats. And I think this is your recent one, William Aronson, if I remember correctly. The article begins, yes, with a lament that the English press was being censored from reporting the true scope of damage that the air attacks had made. It then goes on to enumerate the damages done by the Zeppelin attacks in recent weeks. I'm just going to say this as well, well, not just to you, William Aronson, but I know that, a lot of times they say, oh, the Zeppelin attacks were not that effective and, like bang for your buck or whatever. But the reality was it scared the shit out of the British population, from what I know. They demanded, and you saw that earlier on in the articles and whatnot, demanding action. Like they were like, enough of this, man. You guys have got to stop this. And that's what, that's why they started up with the British air defense program and all that stuff and tried to figure out ways of counteracting the Zeppelin. So it was effective. Berlin's latest news, 17th of October, 1916. New victories of our war pilots, the progress of our Zeppelins, the devastating operations of our Zeppelin attacks. Thank you, William Aronson. A report of our most recent attacks over England. The English press has had to try a special, astonishing approach to make up how our recent airship attacks over England have been fully without result and completely ineffective. They never grow tired in their efficacious and haranguing manner to advise the German War Council that they should give up these unnecessary and expensive attacks in their own interest. Therewith, it is seriously clear to anyone that public opinion in England, aided by these observations of the watchful eyes of the English air fleet, are constantly stirring up the prospects of placed attacks on our territory. In this context, it is quite interesting that the English press in recent days, through its international reporting services out of London, has taken away the right to report from there to the New York Bureau by telegraph dispatches because this London press office has supposedly relayed erroneous reports about the successful raids of the German airships to that New York office. Here are the actual accounts of the devastating operations of the most recent air attacks, especially over London, which are, by these statements, unquestionably established by eyewitnesses to have had the following results. In the attack of the 23rd of September, 100 buildings were heavily damaged. A portion of them are no longer inhabitable. The damage could be reckoned to be over £2 million sterling, 40 million marks. In the neighborhood of the London train station at Brighton, 3 heavy bombs have completely destroyed 10 single-family houses. In Regent Street, the central shopping district of London, the damages done left the greater portion of that area destroyed. A munitions factory was annihilated in a suburb south of London. The train station at Liverpool Street was devastated. Likewise, the bridges and train tracks nearby there have been damaged to the point where they cannot be used, and any attempt to return them to service will involve a great deal of time and effort. 2 factories in the south of London that produced canned foodstuffs now lie in ruins. An underground train line, subway, that leads to Piccadilly Circus had to be closed for 3 days. And remember, you're bombing a city like London, dense. I don't care. Like they say, okay, oh my God, 90% of the things didn't hit the target. Well, when you got a dense city like that, does it really matter? On the 2nd of October, 200 families were made homeless through the destruction of their living quarters by air attack. Along the harbor of the Thames, many gasoline tanks received great damage. On the corner of Stratford High Street and Bow Road, one house was completely destroyed as the bombs fell through it from the roof to the cellar. Then in the sector line just to the south of this house, half of a block of houses were damaged in the same way. In Grimsby, 200 kilometers north of London on the coast of the North Sea, a military camp was hit, killing 400 soldiers. Nearby Grimsby, a large cruiser with 4 smokestacks anchored in the Humber estuary was also hit by bombs. There around 60 of its crew were lost. In the same area, 2 English warships having 2 smokestacks were heavily damaged. In Hull, on the north bank of the Humber, there was also heavy destruction. In one part of that city, only the walls of the houses still stand. Everything else is a heap of rubble. In Leeds, in the north central part of London, enormous damage was done to a munitions factory and train station. In the harbor of the city of Portsmouth on the English Channel, 2 yachts were destroyed and a guardhouse was laid to waste. A dock was heavily damaged and many train cars in its vicinity also exploded. Both the gasoline refinery of the firm Pink & Sons and the fruit and foodstuff storehouse of the firm Elders and Fuss were also hit at the same time. A freight train with 12 cars full of horses was destroyed as well. Okay, I'm going to pop. You know what? I think I'm just going to stop the screen because we're down to 2 minutes. I can't. I'm going to see if there's something super duper ultra quick I wanted to show you, maybe in the pictures. Not that. This one, actually. Why not? We've got a bit of time. So this I found rather interesting because I think I was mentioning to you, some of you guys, that when I was saying that I was going to play the first battle of the Masurian Lakes, and that the victory conditions are rather harsh for the Germans. They have to get all the Russian troops out of East Prussia in 9 turns, and that's not easy. However, I'm reading the On the Knife Edge book there, which I said it's just been a dandy. And here it is. I just thought this was rather interesting. It puts a bit of credence towards, I think, Conflict Simulations Limited game there with the harsh victory conditions for Germany. It says here, this first battle of the Masurian Lakes was only a partial success, since Rennenkamp was able to rescue his army through a timely retreat despite substantial losses. Further unsuccessful operations in the autumn, such as an advance towards Warsaw, intended to relieve the Austrians, meant that the Germans were forced to retreat once more. The Russians were even able to advance again into East Prussia and were not driven back until 1915. There's one little tiny bit I can show you a little bit here. Oh, yeah, because I know that Meandering Mike knows about this as well. He was mentioning it when he did the introductory scenario for the Weltkrieg for Tannenberg, saying that it was like, well, the name Tannenberg, I mean, the battle wasn't even there. And you can see here where it says here, the first step in this process was naming of the battle. Communications referred to it as the battle in East Prussia, the battle of Allenstein for sure, or the battle of, I'm not going to say that. And it already became the subject of much song and celebration. However, Hindenburg and Ludendorff suggested to Wilhelm II that the victory over the Russians deserved a new, more symbolic name, the Battle of Tannenberg, an allusion of the defeat of the Teutonic Order by a Polish-Lithuanian army in 1410. This was a masterstroke of publicity and one that had a decisive influence on the framing of German victory. I'm going to stop it there because we are at noon, and I'm just about to do the after hours thing. Remember, I tried to put as much as I could in the sources and links if you want to go back and go and find out stuff for yourself. For example, if you want to go and take a look at the playthrough of Trench Knife by Gamers with Coffee and Gamers with Coffee with Ashley. Like I said, I was shocked at how good that game looks. I was not, I mean, like I said, it's a little dinky game. You're thinking, oh, how much can you put into a game like that? But I was like, okay, I really want to actually play this game. It's not just for some kind of like little thought experiment. So hold on here. I got to make sure I pop it in the, I don't want to start it. There we go. And I didn't want to start it, but I do want to say that I'm about to hit the mute button on my thingamajig, so I'm going to start the after hours thing. Thank you, everybody, for showing up. It's absolute pleasure to hang out with you guys for an hour. Thank you again, Harold Bosma and William Aarons, for providing some material as well as a lot to that game. Yes, like I said, I'm really interested. Well, I know that you said you're going to be doing a part 2 posting, pretty darn thing. So it's going to be great to see. That's it. I hope you guys have a great weekend and a great week. I know I am, because we've got ridiculous weather. I think even on Monday, they're calling for a high 23. I'm like, what in the world's going on? I don't have to go to work. Like I said, I'm going to be reading and writing my little brains out in the front yard, which is going to be fantastic. So I hope you guys have a fantastic, yeah, it does. It goes way too quick, Brian R. Smith, way too quick. So that's it. I'm gonna hit the mute button and slap on the after hours. And like I said, thank you again. I hope to see you guys next week. And would be live stream 95. Holy smokes, this is crazyville. Thanks again, guys. Like I said, I'm going to present the screen, and that'll be that. And boink. All right. See you later. Bye. And here we go for the war summary for October 13th to the 19th, 1916. Let's see how this goes. The official report to Ottawa of the attack north of the Somme on Sunday last, during which 4 Canadian battalions were badly mauled and at least one was cut to pieces, so that, in the tragic words of the report, from that ground of conflict and death, few returned, makes a number of admissions that are worthy of attention. Yeah, this page in a bit is scathing. I was absolutely jaw-dropped that they're doing this. It is stated that the enemy at this point occupied particularly strong entrenchments, some of which were so placed upon a reverse slope that close direct observation by day was impossible. For the greater portion, heavy wire entanglements were known to exist, and it was afterwards found that although artillery had successfully cut many lanes through the wire, a formidable obstacle to infantry assaults still remained. It is stated elsewhere that the left was less fortunate. Although pushed with equal gallantry, heavy wire was encountered, and in the obscurity, the men could not perceive the gaps. They had to move parallel to the enemy's trench, seeking an entrance, and were exposed to a bitter machine gun fire. Still another reference says that an Alberta battalion was held up by wire entanglements while the machine guns of the enemy poured a withering hail of bullets into its ranks. If these statements are not exaggerated, the Canadians had their Majerfontein, Luce, and Neuve-Chapelle all in one Sunday. They were sent up against wire defenses that had not been subjected to the thorough artillery preparation which is necessary before an assault is launched. The explanation that close direct observation of the German defenses by day was impossible does not appear to be sufficient. Britain's airplane scouting service has become marvelously proficient, and the presence of uncut wire in large quantities. Hold on here, I got to go to the, oh my gosh, I've got to actually put back the toolbar so I can go from there to there. I was trying to extend it, make it so I wouldn't have to do it. My God, next time I'm like, how am I supposed to get to the next page? Been detected at once by aerial observation. The defeat, for defeat it was, despite the splendid gallantry of the men who died while they sought a way through the enemy's wire entanglements, was avoidable and must have been due to the assumption by some highly placed officer that sufficient preparations for an assault had been made when, as a matter of fact, the artillery had not been used as it should have been. Hundreds of dead and wounded is a heavy price to pay for disregard of the most elementary precautions. The lack of munitions may have warranted the risking of men's lives against uncut wire in the early stages of the war, but the excuse can no longer be put forward. The Canadian people will be deeply interested in learning more about the action north of Courcelette last Sunday. The official report leaves much to be explained. I was like, whoa. From General Maurice of the British General Staff comes the cheerful and cheering statement that as the British Army on the Somme advances, its difficulties become fewer. The country already gained is hilly and was strongly defended, and the British have now reached lower rolling lands. The advance since July 1st has added 20,000 yards to the front that must be held by the Germans, and has thus materially increased their need for men. The Italian stroke on the Isonzo has been remarkably successful, not only in the winning of ground, but in the holding of the ground won. On Wednesday, Rome reports the Austrians sent fresh troops to assail the positions captured by the Italians on the Carso. On each occasion, these assaults were checked and turned back by the fire of the Italian artillery. In the afternoon, Cadorna's troops resumed their forward movement east of Nova Via and at other points to the north. These advances resulted in the capture of 1,171 additional prisoners, of whom 35 were officers. Since the Italians renewed their offensive on the 6th of August, prior to the fall of Gorizia, they have captured in the Isonzo region 30,881 prisoners, of whom 726 were officers. There has been a renewal of hard fighting in the Dolomite sector of the Trentino front and at various points to the south of the Asiago Plateau, during which the Austrians suffered very heavy losses and made no headway. On the western front yesterday, there was a comparative lull. The French troops made progress to the west of Sailly, while south of the Somme, there was intense artillery activity on the part of both the French and Germans. The latter are evidently apprehensive of another strong attack at Ablaincourt. They report bitter house-to-house fighting in the outskirts of that village. The British report announces that an attack was launched yesterday afternoon on the rising ground between the British front and the Bapaume-Péronne road, and that some success had been won and prisoners were beginning to come in. The attack took place on a line of advance northeasterly from Les Boeufs and Guiducourt in cooperation with the French move against Sailly, which is also on the Péronne-Bapaume road. There is a rise of about 90 feet from the village of Guiducourt to the road. The Bulgars resist tenaciously the advance of the Serbs towards Monastir. They have, I got the thing there. Where am I here? They have launched a number of bitter counterattacks in the region within the loop of the Cerna, but have failed to stay the Serbs, who, it is announced in an official dispatch from Paris, have obtained a footing in the village of Barod. British cavalry continue to explore the country in the neighborhood of Ceres at the other end of the long Balkan front. They have discovered that the city is strongly held by the Bulgars as expected. A Sofia report states that a cruiser of the Allies has bombarded the heights of Kavala without results. It is in this region that Venizelos will operate when the Revolutionary Army of Greece is fully organized. Russia has sent another contingent to Macedonia, probably by way of the Persian Gulf. The landing of the Russians at Salonika is announced in London. The Romanian withdrawal from Transylvania continues without serious misadventure. The valley of the Alp has been cleared of Romanians who have withdrawn through the southern passes. They seem still to hold both the northern and southern approaches to the Vulcan Pass, but the Red Tower Pass appears to be in German hands. The Berlin report yesterday stated that in the Maros Valley and farther to the northeast, the Romanians are now retreating. It was in this region that they penetrated most deeply into Transylvania. In recent fighting among the mountains, the Romanians have lost a good deal of war material and 18 officers and 639 men who were taken prisoners. There is no evidence that the Germans have cut off any considerable number of Romanians in the valley of the Maros. The Romanian retreat is disappointing, not disastrous. Mr. Asquith's announcement in the House of Commons that the entire coast of German East Africa has been occupied and that the complete conquest of the colony was only a matter of time is a welcome one. A very considerable army is employed in these operations, which will be released for service elsewhere when they come to an end. It will be too much to expect the Boers, who have been constantly on active service for over 2 years, to volunteer in large numbers for the European front. But the Rhodesians and other British elements may reasonably be expected to offer for overseas after their work in East Africa is done. The Boers might be used in Egypt to replace, in part, the large and fine body of British troops now in garrison there. The danger of an organized Turkish invasion is at an end, and many thousands of men now in Egypt could be utilized in Europe were the Boers to provide a contingent for service in Egypt. Fascinating stuff. At Pedril, the enemy has been repulsed and has retreated to Timos. This statement, contained in the Bucharest official report, shows that Romania has won a breathing space that may enable her to concentrate a force sufficiently large enough to hold the Tomos or Pergil Pass until Russian troops can come to her aid. That the temporary check to this vanguard will cause the German leader to abandon his project of crossing the Transylvanian Alps and devastating the plains of Romania is not at all probable. His best and quickest route to Bucharest lies southward along the railway from the summit of Pedril, and the guns necessary to force a way through the pass are doubtless even now being brought up and put into position. Photographs of the railway station at Pedril show that the pass is very narrow and the mountains alongside precipitous. The army of von Falkenhayn cannot risk a passage till these mountains are cleared of the Romanians, and that may prove a difficult task. The employment of Bavarians on this front indicates that hard fighting is expected in the mountains. The Bavarians, who have plenty of mountain climbing to do at home, are almost invariably sent to the front when a piece of work like the forcing of the Pedril Pass is in hand. I wonder if they were the first Alpine troops the Germans brought towards the Italian front as well. That'd be interesting to know. The public appeal of the King of Romania to the Allies asking that they aid in preventing the Germans from doing to his country what they did to Belgium and Serbia will lead the Russians to strain every nerve to reinforce the Romanian army. The Slav troops thrown into the Dobruja from Bessarabia saved the situation there and forced von Mackensen to give up his project of crossing the Danube and attacking Romania from the south. If the Romanians can hold the Transylvanian passes a few days longer, just a few days longer, sorry, I'm ad-libbing, I'm just loving this stuff that fits, the Russians will be able to come up in sufficient force to block them permanently. The sudden cessation of the Russian forward movement in southern Galicia and in the wooded Carpathians undoubtedly means the withdrawal of a considerable part of Brusilov's troops for operations in Romania. They will be heard from in a few days on that front. I'm sorry, I'm just finding this stuff just so fascinating. There's just so much backstory and the way they write things, and it's just amazing. Meanwhile, Italy is doing everything possible to compel reinforcement of the Austrian army on the Isonzo, thus weakening her offensive power in Transylvania. Since the renewal of the Italian offensive on the Carso Plateau on Tuesday, it is believed that the Austrian losses in killed and wounded have been at least 15,000, while over 9,000 prisoners have been taken, including 400 reported yesterday. The Austrians not only lost heavily when their trenches were destroyed, by the Italian preparatory artillery fire, but in counterattacks on Thursday south of Nova Via and at Sober near Gorizia. On the front of a single Italian battalion near Sober, 400 enemy dead were buried after the Austrian counterattacks had been driven off. What in the world? That sentence really screwed me up. Ground has been gained on the Carso, where the western slope of Monte Pesinka and the first houses of Lovica were reached. These points are south of the Paco River, on a part of the front where relatively little progress was made on the first 2 days of the struggle. The strength of the Austrian army on the Carso is believed to have been about 100,000 men when the Italian attack was launched on Tuesday. A loss of a fourth of the total strength in less than a week must involve immediate reinforcement if Trieste is to be held against the Italian rush. Where am I here now? There we are. The Bulgars hold in force the railway on the Struma front, both north and south of the point at Prosnik, where the British have cut the line, while the rolling stock north of the break, when it was made, the Bulgars will be able to carry on traffic for some little time in the Demir Hisar region, but the value of the railway has already been practically destroyed, and unless the Bulgars have large stores of shells along the Demir Hisar front, they will be compelled to withdraw before long. The British official report tells of the use of cavalry patrols and armored cars in the operations. The Bulgars are no longer holding a continuous line of trenches on this front, but have concentrated around centers such as Seres and Demir Hisar. Of conditions in the Monastir region, no news was published yesterday. In the center, there was considerable activity, and the Bulgars lost some men when the British raided their trenches near Doron. A general advance as a means of aiding Romania by diverting Bulgarian troops to the Salonika front is almost certain to take place within a few days. King Constantine has been disposed of. He may not be more friendly than he was, but he is important now to harm the allies. Constantine's latest pronouncement was made a day or two ago to a number of leading Greeks and others who asked him to join the allies. He declared that in 15 days, Romania would no longer exist, and that after she had been disposed of, if Greece were to join the Allies now, the irresistible German army would be turned loose on her. A couple of weeks will show whether Constantine is a prophet or a scaremonger. The British night report from the Somme speaks of hostile shelling during yesterday north of Courcelette and the Guidocourt and Martin-Puich areas. Otherwise, there was nothing to report. The advance towards Bapaume continues steadily, especially in the region northeast and northwest of Guidocourt. On Thursday night, some progress was made and 150 prisoners were taken. The Germans have materially increased the number of their guns north of the Somme, and it is believed have removed from Verdun a considerable part of the heavy artillery used there and concentrated it around Péronne and Bapaume. The British and French fire also increases, and each advance is preceded by a greater volume of gunfire than any that went on before. I'm going to take a sip of water. Oh, there was heavy fighting both north and south of the Somme during the greater part of Saturday. The heaviest attack, and one which succeeded brilliantly, was made by the French to the east of Bellois-en-Santerre. Here, the German first line was pierced on a front of more than 2,000 yards. Near Ablaincourt, farther to the south, the French took by assault the hamlet of Guillermont and a sugar refinery in the neighborhood. The number of prisoners captured during these operations amounted to 1,100, including 19 officers. On Sunday, heavy German counterattacks were launched against the positions captured by the French on Saturday. In no case did the enemy regain ground. The French infantry stood like a rock against every attack. The British struck in the Thiepval sector and at various points along the Ancre. The greatest advance was made in the neighborhood of the Schwaben redoubt and the Stuff redoubt. Here, the communication trenches of the enemy were cleared for a distance of nearly 200 yards. around the Schwaben redoubt, heavy losses were inflicted upon the Germans, and the British line was advanced well to the north and west of the redoubt. 2 officers and 305 men were taken during the fighting in this neighborhood. On Sunday, General Haig's forces continued their attacks, and as a result, the British line was advanced slightly to the northeast of Wiedelkohl. The German artillery, after the defeat of Saturday in the neighborhood of the Schwaben redoubt and in the Ancre Valley, actively shelled the new positions occupied by the British. A number of additional prisoners were captured during the advance of Sunday. In all these operations of the Allies, both north and south of the Somme, the aviators of the various corps cooperated most closely and effectively with the infantry. The French official report states that the airmen surpassed all that could be expected. One machine returned hit by more than 200 bullets. I think we were mentioning this before about that World War I planes were a lot more resilient than people give them credit for. In the operations north of the Somme, 2 pilots flying very low peppered the enemy in his trenches at short range with their machine guns. Like, I don't know what that most sophisticated, crazy, expensive American thing, but I doubt it could handle 200 bullets in it. Berlin admits in an official statement issued yesterday that the British obtained a firm foothold after hand-to-hand fighting and at one point in the Thiepval area. General Haig's reports continue to tell of raids upon the enemy's trenches in the region north of Arras. Of course, I mean, that plane, the modern plane could shoot the World War I plane from probably, 500 miles away or something crazy. These raids have been so persistently carried out that they look like the prelude to a general offensive well to the north of that now being carried on along the Somme River. During Saturday night, the enemy's trenches were entered at a number of places, including Sèvres, Rochely-Court, Festubert, and Neuchâtel. Considerable damage was done to the enemy's defenses, and prisoners were taken in all of these raids. Reports from Bucharest tell of hard fighting all along the frontier of Transylvania. North of the Vulcan Pass, in the region immediately south of Petrosny, the Romanians took by assault an important mountain position, compelling the enemy to withdraw in disorder after suffering serious losses. The Pedril Pass also is still firmly held, Bucharest reporting that their 2 enemy attacks were repulsed. In the valley of the Upper Alt, the Romanians appear to be still withdrawing to the east, but there's nothing precipitate about their movements, and every day's delay in crossing the Transylvanian Alps lessens Falkenhayn's chances of making a cleanup in Romania. The only success claimed by the Teutons in this region is the recapture of the summit of Smotre in the wooded Carpathians from the Russians and the taking of 444 Russian prisoners in an engagement in the Kurlibaba Pass. It is by this pass that Russian troops seeking to relieve the pressure upon the Romanians would strive to enter Transylvania in force. Berlin reports renewed activity on the part of Brusilov's armies in southern and central Galicia and in Volhynia. In the Volhynian front, Petrograd reports say that the Russians have taken a considerable part of the German frontline trenches. One of the most remarkable submarine exploits of the war is reported from Sebastopol. The Russian submarine Tulin has arrived at that port with a Turkish armed transport of 6,000 tons displacement as a prize. The Turkish vessel was captured near the Bosphorus after an artillery engagement. Although commanded by German officers, the transport was not able to sink the eggshell that had the temerity to attack it in above water fighting. On the Salonika fronts, Serbian troops have advanced on the left bank of the Cerna towards Monastir. At the other end of the front, French and British troops have cut the railway line south of Serres, following upon the severing of this line north of Serres last week by a British force. The failure of the Bulgars to obtain supplies by railway must inevitably disorganize their plans of a defense throughout southeastern Macedonia. The Bulgar force is evidently not strong enough to hold a continuous line of entrenchments between the mountains and the coast, and the result is that roving cavalry detachments are making continued occupation by the enemy of this part of Greece well nigh impossible. The Amsterdam correspondent of Reuters agency reports that the German guards along the Belgian frontier left on Friday to join their detachments from the interior, which were to be sent by rail to Romania. This indicates conclusively not only that Germany intends to do her utmost toward the conquest of Romania, but that she is short of troops with which to compass her end. The vigorous offensive of the Italians on the Isonzo, the steady grinding of the army of General Serret on the Salonika front, and the continual, if slow, advance of the French and British armies on the Somme have given full employment to all the troops the Central Empires can muster in the field. If Romania is to be overwhelmed, it must be by the use of garrison troops. This news from Belgium of the removal of the German guards on the frontier of Holland indicates stress more clearly than almost any action yet reported. The German attack on the southern passes of the Transylvanian Alps was only a feint, intended to draw the Romanians into the region to the north of Bucharest. The real invasion of Falkenhayn is aimed at a point well up on the northeastern frontier of Romania, a little less than 250 miles due west of Odessa. If the Germans can break through at this point, they will be well to the north of the Danubian Delta, in a country offering few natural obstacles to large military operations. By interposing a wedge of Teutonic troops between Romania and southern Russia, Falkenhayn could cut off Romania's supplies, except such as might be shipped in way by of the Black Sea. He would thus speedily render Romania helpless, for there are no arsenals of importance in the country. Not looking good. The German strategic design is a daring one, but entirely within the bounds of possibility. Falkenhayn's move explains the presence of Mackensen's army in the Dobruja. The invasion from the south is clearly part of a great encircling movement by which it is intended to bring the whole of Romania within the grip of the Teutonic pincers. It is of importance to note that the Hungarian state railways have branches running up to points quite close to the Rodna, Borgo, and Gimes passes, through which the Teutons are now swarming. Petrograd reports that in this region south of the Dorna Vatra, the enemy assumed the offensive with great forces. Farther south, in the Gimes Pass, the Teutons are well over the summit and are battling their way down the eastern slopes towards the plains of Moldavia. The map, which was actually one of the, I think it was yesterday's World War I image of the day. I think it was the Romanian passes. The map showing the various passes through Transylvanian Alps, published elsewhere in this issue, indicates the principal points of contact between the Romanian and Teuton forces. The Romanians, believing that Falkenhayn was heading for Bucharest by way of the Vulcan, Rotherthurm, Torzburg, and Tomos passes, hastily concentrated their armies in the region round about them and are vigorously defending the frontier. Only by way of the Torzburg Pass have the Germans reached Romanian soil on the south. While the Romanians were barring and bolting the front door, Falkenhayn was getting ready to smash in the side entrance. Now that his plans are fully matured, he has disclosed the chief point of attack, which is far more than 100 miles northeast of the passes the Romanian army has been massed to defend. A few days will reveal the extent of Russia's preparedness to resist a sudden stroke towards the Black Sea, north of the Danube. If Falkenhayn were to succeed, he would win a great and far-reaching victory. Failure might well involve the annihilation of the army that is now pouring over the Carpathians in great force south of the Donavatra. The Russians are already striking hard in Galicia and Volhynia with the object of causing a diversion of Teutonic forces from the Romanian front. To the west of Lutsk in Volhynia, there has been heavy but indecisive fighting. To the southwest of Brody and northeastern Galicia, the Russians are attacking furiously, but according to Berlin reports, without success. Still further south in the Carpathian region, the Austrians claim 1,700 Russian prisoners taken in the Kurlibaba region. In the same sector, the Russians report the capture of 17 Austrian officers and 1,170 men. Heavy fighting continues all along the front. Berlin sent out a jubilant statement as to the condition of affairs in Transylvania, which is said to be clear of Romanians except for small sections near the border. The entire Transylvanian population and the better Romanian element, the world is assured, feel that they have been delivered from a nightmare, as the Romanians have been expelled after a short region of terror. Of more weight, perhaps, is the statement that the Romanians lost most of their First Army and approximately 2 divisions of their Second Army in the Transylvanian adventure, and that the leaders of these armies lost their surety of decision and moved brigades and regiments hastily forward and back on railroads and even on carts. On the Salonika front, all goes well. The British along the Struma continue to occupy fresh ground. They've entirely destroyed the value of the railway as a means of supply for the Bulgars and are now drawing in towards Demir Hisar as well as Seres. An attack in force on both positions will not be long delayed. In the region of Monastir, the Bulgars are fighting with remarkable tenacity, but the Serbs are not to be denied. Their forces in the bend of the Cerna are gradually strengthening their grip upon the hills to the southeast of the city. The British headquarters report puts stress upon the capture of the greater part of the most precious 2 acres of France. In German eyes, the Schwaben Redoubt above Thiepval and its environs. From the positions won on Saturday and Sunday, the entire valley of the Ancre as far as Grande Cour can be brought under the direct fire of the British guns. The retirement of the enemy from the entire salient west of Bapaume is likely to take place before long. Attempts during Sunday night and Monday morning to recapture the lost ground at Schwaben Redoubt were made by the enemy and were repulsed with losses, which last night's British official statement said were exceedingly heavy. There was little else to report. Aerial activity was marked, and close cooperation with the artillery enabled the British gunners on Sunday to completely destroy 1 hostile battery position and severely damage many others. The French spent the day north of the Somme, consolidating their position in the portions of the village of Sailly captured during Sunday night. This was accomplished despite heavy shell fire. South of the Somme, there was a lively action near Ablaincourt, as a result of which the Germans were driven out of a small wood after losing 110 prisoners. They left behind them 2 9-inch guns and a field gun. The steady loss of artillery by the Germans begins to alarm the general staff, and it is announced that many thousands of new employees are to be put to work in the Krupp factories. 2 opinions, wide as the poles apart, as to conditions on the Somme came over the wires yesterday. One was contained in a semi-official statement from Berlin, which, after admitting that the shell fire of the Allied armies exceeds in violence anything hitherto experienced, declares that this concentration of artillery fire did not make the German positions ripe for storming, and therefore recent infantry attacks of the British and French forces failed. Berlin closes with the confident assertion that it becomes more and more probable that the French and British will bleed to death on the unshakable German front, just as the Russians did in Galicia. The British point of view is contained in a letter sent from France 4 days ago by a Canadian artillery officer to a friend in England and cabled by the correspondent of the Canadian Associated Press. The officer states that the severity of the fighting is almost past all imagination. The guns leave not one brick upon another in the villages swept by their fire. Shell holes are as numerous on the broken surface of the earth as holes in wire netting, and it is by joining these holes together that the infantry obtains shelter after an advance. There are still deep dugouts found in which the Germans were able to escape the deluge of shells, but in many cases their occupants escaped shell fire only to be killed by the bombing sections of the Allied infantry. These dugouts, says the Observer of Conditions 4 days ago, are becoming fewer and fewer the more we advance, for the Huns have no time or no heart to build them before they are compelled to retreat. Again, he adds that the farther we go, the less formidable will the fortifications to overcome. Now, you haven't seen the Hindenburg line yet, buddy. Upon the accuracy of this prediction depends the success of the Somme campaign at Verdun. The farther the Germans advanced, the more effective and deadly became the French resistance. And in the end, the effort to take Verdun had to be abandoned because the Germans were spending so much more of life and material of war in the assault than the French in the defense that even the great effect in heartening the German people and impressing neutrals that would have been obtained by the capture of the city was not considered worth the price. The Verdun campaign lasted over 5 months. That of the Somme has continued for 3.5, and the loss of life on both sides is already much greater than at Verdun. Nothing is known as to the losses of the French and Germans, but it is reasonably certain, judging from the British returns, which indicate casualties of about 400,000 in the 14 weeks of the offensive, that close upon 1.5 million men on both sides have been put out of action along the Somme and at other points on the Western Front since the 1st of July. How long can the Germans, hard-pressed for men on 1,000 miles of front in Eastern Europe, stand casualties in the West at the rate of almost 250,000 a month? The British official report states that during yesterday, the German positions in the neighborhood of Neuville-Saint-Vaast, Wischete, and Ypres were bombarded, and south of the Ancre there was considered. If I see that word again, I'm not going to even try to pronounce it. There was considerable artillery activity on both sides. The British aviators have been very busy bombing points of importance behind the German lines, and many combats in the air have taken place. A very heavy bombardment by both sides all along the French Somme front is reported from Paris. The Germans launched 2 fresh counterattacks east of Bellois, which were repulsed, as were those of Monday night, with heavy loss. The general renewal of heavy artillery engagements indicates preparation for another forward surge of the Allies within the next few days. Berlin reports the repulse of prolonged Russian attempts to advance in the region east and southeast of Lemberg. The Russian artillery fire is described as of the greatest intensity. After the Russians had repeatedly stormed without success, two elite German regiments attacked their positions and took the first line trenches on a mile of a mile and a quarter. They captured 30 officers and 1,900 men. The feature of the Berlin report is the admission that the Russian artillery fire was not only intense, but long continued. There seems to be no scarcity of shell now on the Russian front. In Volya also, to the west of Lutsk and Dubno, there's been prolonged fighting. Vienna asserts that the Russians attacked 10 times north of Zetzorzy, but nowhere broke through. They suffered gigantic losses. Petrograd reports speak of very heavy fighting, but lay stress on the failure of Teuton counterattacks. In Transylvania and in the passes leading into Romania, fierce and continuous fighting proceeds. Berlin admits that the Romanians are offering resistance on the roads through the eastern passes, and there, as well as south and west of Kronstadt, the position is generally unchanged. Bucharest reports that in the Uzul Valley, the Germans have been driven back across the frontier after an enemy battalion in mass formation had been badly cut up by the Romanian artillery fire. In the Gimis Pass, Bucharest admits that the invaders are still fighting on Romanian soil near Agos. Reuters dispatches describe the situation in Athens as dangerous. There have been royalist demonstrations. Admiral Dufournet has been hooted, his sailors have been mobbed, and there is a possibility of more serious developments. The Allied fleet lying in the roadstead in the Piraeus could destroy the city by bombardment, but that is not to be thought of. The Greeks are evidently not all on the side of Venizelos and the occupation of Athens by the Allies to prevent the king's partisans from giving active help to Germans in the belief that they are backing the winning horse seems to be inevitable. It is most sincerely to be hoped that this will be accomplished without bloodshed. The situation in Greece remains critical, but there are signs of lessening strain. The British minister had an interview with King Constantine at Athens on Tuesday night, during which the king strongly insisted upon the groundlessness of the suspicion that Greece contemplated an attack upon the Allied armies. As a proof of his good faith, the king is reported to have declared his readiness, well, I gotta grab the thing, to withdraw the Greek force from Larissa. Dispatches indicate that much war material en route to that city has been seized by the Allies. The suspicion grows that the king intended to remove his headquarters to northern Greece. I'm going to have to drink some water here. Hold on. So that the fleet of the Allies should no longer exercise control over his movements. There was rioting in the streets of Athens last night, and French marine patrols came in contact with the crowd. It is thought possible that in view of the result of the conference between King Constantine and the British minister, the French troops may be withdrawn and the maintenance of order left to the Greeks. The breach between Venizelos and the other revolutionary leaders and the followers of the king widens daily, and there is no possibility of united action. The king is doing everything possible to preserve order in Athens, believing that the very existence of Greece is at stake. So long as the French troops remain in the capital, there is imminent danger of an outbreak, which would involve the effective occupation of all Greece during the war by the Allied armies. Heavy rain on Tuesday night and early yesterday morning greatly retarded the operations on the Western Front. Later in the morning, on this page, an attack was made on the German lines north of Guiducourt and toward the hill of Valancourt by General Haig's troops. The result was an extension of the front and the capture so far of over 150 prisoners. Valancourt lies along the Albert-Bapon Road, northeast of La Sarre, at a point where the river Ancre crosses the road. The butte of Valancourt is a rounded hill to the south of the village, which would provide admirable gun positions for the shelling of the German lines on the northern bank of the Ancre. These lines constitute the last defensive positions on the road to Bapaume along this highway. The British aircraft continued their scouting over the enemy's lines and in addition carried out operations against the enemy's railways, stations, buildings, and billets. 4 enemy airplanes were driven down and damaged in the course of these operations, and 4 of the British machines have not returned. The French firmly hold the positions of the village of Sailly captured by them. Strong German counterattacks on Tuesday night failed to loosen their grasp. The troops taking part in these attacks were badly cut up. The ridge east of Sailly, towards which the French are steadily making their way, is the highest point between the present front and Cambrai, the great road and railway center, about 17 miles away, which will become the objective of the British and perhaps of the French also after Bapaume is taken. The line of the British and French advance north of the Somme proves that the Allied chiefs have no intention of directing frontal assaults upon either Péronne or Bapaume. They are not using the spearhead. By pocketing these cities, as Combles and Thiepval were pocketed, they hope to avoid the cost of a direct attack on what are undoubtedly strong fortified positions. Interesting. The French Midnight Report tells of the completion of the conquest of the village of Sailly and the driving of the enemy from the ridges to the northwest and northeast. This is a notable gain. South of the Somme, in the bend of the river west of Péronne, the first German line was carried with a rush on the entire front between La Maisonnette and Biache. In these attacks, 250 prisoners, including 5 officers, were captured. The French at La Maisonnette are fairly close to the bridge over the Somme, which gives access to Péronne from the southwest. A great struggle is proceeding 3 miles north of Hélice in Galicia. The railway running from Hélice northwest toward Lemberg is under Russian fire, and the enemy's communications are threatened. Reports from Berlin state on the western bank of the Nara-Yuvka in this region, Bavarian troops, after effective artillery preparation, stormed a Russian point of report and captured 350 men and 12 machine guns. It is admitted, however, that the Russians are attacking in great force not only in Galicia, but on the Volhynian front in the Carpathians. These Russian attacks are intended to relieve the pressure upon the Romanian armies along the Transylvanian border.
Brusilov's attacks on the Kurlibaba sector are especially valuable from this point of view. The advance of the Germans through the Guillemets Pass has now been stayed, and at various points along the frontier between Bukovina and the Valley of the Maros, the Romanians have driven back the enemy, capturing in the aggregate many hundreds of prisoners. In the Uzul Valley, it is announced that after a sanguinary action, the Germans have been driven back beyond the frontier. In the south, it is stated that in the Pedriel Pass, there has been an intense artillery duel, followed by violent infantry engagements, during which the Romanians captured 4 machine guns and some prisoners. The situation as a whole in the Transylvanian Alps is distinctly encouraging. No claim is made in either Berlin or the Vienna reports of gains on this front. Members of the Romanian staff insist that the precautions taken will prevent any incursion of the enemy into the Romanian plains. Snow in the mountains is already reported and will add greatly to the difficulties of the invaders. A dispatch from Rome reports the storming of the Austrian lines north of Mount Vesubio and the capturing of a strong redoubt. I've got to look this up. I've been seeing it as well in the articles and the chronology. Remember, I get the chronology there from that book, the Martin Gilbert thing, I do believe. Is it? Hold on here. No, that's the Atlas one. The chronology one there is from Lord Edward Gleichen. Sorry, I'm getting sidetracked. Following this a dispatch from Rome reports the storming of the Austrian lines north of Mount Vesubio and the capture of a strong redoubt which the Austrians had built on a commanding position called the Tooth of Vesubio. I'm just like, that is so neat. Following this two strong Austrian columns, which were moving forward to make a counterattack, were brought under the, see what I mean by just putting in the odd comma would be nice. A counterattack, which were brought, and maybe if I would just not keep, just continue finishing the paragraph, it also would be nice, under the concentrated fire of the Italian batteries and almost entirely destroyed. In an all-night action, the Austrians lost very heavily. Sorry, I'm just in one of these moods. Increasing strain upon the Bulgars on the Salonika front is clearly demonstrated by the French official announcement that Turkish troops are appearing on the Struma front. The French have captured Bulgar trenches for some distance on the right bank of the Varga. And that's it. And I hope it went well. And I hope to see you next week. And I hope you have a great week. Bye.